Let us begin our journey together. Wherever you are, in the quiet of the night or the stillness of the afternoon, let this moment be yours. Join me now and take a long, slow, deep breath in, feeling the air travel all the way down into your belly, expanding, nourishing. And now, release that breath with a soft sigh, letting go of whatever you have been holding on to. Let the tension in your jaw soften. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let it all go. As you settle into your comfortable space, I invite you to share in your mind where you are listening from. What city? What country? What time does your clock show? Is the world around you dark and silent, or is the day still bright? It matters not. Here we are connected in this shared space of tranquility. Now, if you feel comfortable, allow your eyes to gently close and let my voice be your anchor in the gentle currents of this story. We travel now back across the centuries to the sun-drenched plains of ancient India, to a tale that unfolded in the life of the Buddha's most beloved disciple. This is the story of Ananda, he who was the Buddha's cousin, his personal attendant, and the one known as the treasurer of the Dharma for his remarkable ability to remember every single sermon the Buddha ever gave. Ananda was not known for his rigorous asceticism or for his profound philosophical insights, but for something far rarer and perhaps more beautiful: his boundless, unconditional kindness. His heart was said to be like an open door, welcoming to all without judgment. He was the gentle breeze in a sangha of powerful storms, the calm harbor where all ships could find refuge. One day, during the hottest part of the year, when the sun beat down upon the earth with a relentless white-hot fury, the Buddha and his monks were staying in a grove near the city of Shravasti. The air was thick and still, shimmering with heat. The dust on the roads was as fine as powder, rising in soft clouds with every footstep. Ananda, having finished his morning duties, was walking alone back towards the grove. The walk was long, and the sun was merciless. He felt a deep, parching thirst, a dryness in his throat that made it difficult to swallow. His saffron robe felt heavy on his shoulders, and beads of sweat trickled down his brow. In the distance, through the shimmering haze, he saw what his body craved: a well. It stood by the side of the path, a simple stone structure offering the promise of cool, life-giving water. As he drew closer, he saw a young woman there, drawing water with a rope and a clay pot. Her name was Prakriti. She was of the Matanga clan, which in the rigid social structure of the time meant she was an outcast, considered untouchable. Her very shadow was thought to be polluting to those of higher castes. She moved with a quiet resignation, her shoulders slightly stooped as if carrying the invisible weight of her social station. Ananda approached her, his steps slow and mindful, his presence radiating a gentle calm. He stood a respectful distance away and spoke, his voice soft and clear, not a command, but a gentle request. "Sister," he said, "I am thirsty. Would you be so kind as to give me a little water to drink?" Prakriti froze. Her hand on the rope went still. She did not look at him. She stared at the ground, her heart beginning to pound in her chest. A high-caste Sakyan monk, a follower of the great Buddha, was speaking to her and calling her sister. This was impossible. It was a transgression of every rule she had ever known. Her entire life had been a lesson in her own unworthiness. She was not to be spoken to, not to be looked at, not to be touched. She was to make herself invisible. Her voice, when she finally found it, was a frightened whisper. "Sir," she said, her eyes still fixed at the dust at her feet, "how can you ask for water from me? Do you not know who I am? I am a Matanga girl, an outcast. I am unclean. If I give you water, you will be defiled." She expected him to recoil in disgust, to turn and walk away, perhaps to chastise her for even being near him. This was the dance she had known her entire life. But Ananda did not move. His calm presence was like a great, still mountain. He looked at her, not as an outcast, but as a fellow human being suffering from thirst, just as he was. When he spoke again, his words were the gentlest and most revolutionary she had ever heard. "Sister," he said, his voice filled with a sincere and simple compassion, "I did not ask for your caste or your family. I only asked for water." Let those words wash over you. I only asked for water. A simple request that cut through centuries of prejudice, of hatred, of separation. A simple request that saw not the label, but the person. Prakriti, slowly, hesitantly, lifted her head. For the first time, she looked into his eyes. She saw no judgment there, no disgust, no superiority. She saw only a clear, calm kindness, like a deep, still lake. It was as if she were being truly seen, for the very first time in her life, as just a human being. The invisible weight on her shoulders seemed to vanish. The identity of unclean that had been branded onto her soul began to dissolve in the warmth of his gaze. Something inside her, something that had been tightly coiled in shame and fear for as long as she could remember, began to unwind. Without another word, she drew up a pot of cool, clear water. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured it into his cupped palms. She watched as he drank deeply, the water running through his fingers, splashing onto the dry earth. He drank until his thirst was quenched, and then he looked at her one last time. He bowed his head slightly, a gesture of gratitude. "Thank you, sister," he said, and then he turned and continued his walk back towards the grove. Prakriti stood by the well, watching him go, the clay pot still in her hand. The world around her was the same: the hot sun, the dusty road, the shimmering air, but her inner world had been irrevocably transformed. The brief encounter had been like a lightning strike, illuminating a landscape she never knew existed. The kindness in his eyes, the respect in his voice when he called her sister, the simple act of accepting water from her unclean hands, it was more than she could comprehend. A feeling she had never known before began to blossom in her heart. It was a feeling of overwhelming gratitude, of awe, of a deep, resonant connection. She had not just given a drink of water to a thirsty monk. She felt as if he had given her a drink from the well of life itself, and she had been dying of thirst her whole life without even knowing it. She stood there long after his saffron robe had disappeared into the distance. The sun began to dip towards the horizon, casting long shadows on the ground. But Prakriti did not notice. She was lost in the memory of his face, the sound of his voice. The encounter replayed in her mind, over and over. And as the gratitude and awe settled deep within her, they began to transform into something else, something more powerful, more personal, more consuming. It was the first bloom of a desperate, all-encompassing love. She did not love him as a holy man. She loved him as a man. She fell in love with the one person in the entire world who had looked at her and seen a human being. Her life, once defined by the well and the village boundaries, now had a new center, a new sun around which her entire existence began to revolve. The monk named Ananda. This is where her story truly begins. The act of compassion has set in motion a powerful current of human attachment. Her love, born from a moment of pure recognition, will drive her to follow Ananda, to abandon her old life, and ultimately to come face to face with the Buddha himself. The story is just starting to unfold. The love that bloomed in Prakriti's heart was not a gentle, quiet affection. It was a wildfire. It consumed her thoughts, her days, her nights. The simple, repetitive tasks of her life, drawing water, mending clothes, preparing meager meals, became unbearable. Her mind was no longer with her body. It was with him. She would close her eyes and see his face, the calm compassion in his eyes. She would hear the echo of his voice calling her sister. These memories were both nectar and poison. They brought her a joy she had never known, but also a deep, aching longing that left her breathless. Let yourself feel for a moment the power of such a singular focus, the way the world can shrink down to one single point, one face, one voice. Let your mind be as still as Prakriti's was focused. She learned his name, Ananda. She learned where he was staying, in the Jetavana monastery near Shravasti. Her old life, the one of shame and invisibility, no longer had any hold on her. It was a dream from which she had awakened. Her only reality now was Ananda. She decided she could not live without seeing him again. So one morning, she abandoned her home, her family, everything she knew. She had nothing to take with her but the clothes on her back and the consuming fire in her heart. She walked to Shravasti, a city bustling with merchants, pilgrims, and scholars. It was overwhelming, but she was not deterred. Her purpose was clear. She made her way to the gates of the Jetavana monastery. It was a place of immense peace, shaded by fragrant trees, the air filled with the low hum of chanting. But she could not enter. She was not only a woman, but an outcast. The rules were clear. So she waited. Every day, from sunrise to sunset, she would stand near the main gate, her eyes scanning the path, hoping for a glimpse of him. She would watch the monks in their saffron robes come and go, their faces serene and detached. Her heart would leap with a painful jolt every time she saw one who resembled him from a distance, only to sink back into despair when she realized it was not him. Days turned into a week, then 2. She ate what little she could beg for, and she drank water from a nearby stream. She grew thin. Her clothes became ragged, and her face was etched with a desperate, haunted longing. Her vigil became a familiar sight. The monks began to notice the strange, silent woman who stood at their gates like a forlorn statue. They did not understand.
They saw only an outcast woman behaving erratically, and they shunned her, pulling their robes tighter as they passed. Ananda himself became aware of her. When he left the monastery to go on his alms round, he would see her standing there, her eyes fixed on him with a burning intensity that made him deeply uncomfortable. He remembered her, the girl at the well. He felt pity for her, but also a growing unease. Her presence was a disruption to the serene rhythm of his life. He tried to ignore her, to walk past without meeting her gaze, but it was impossible. He could feel her eyes on him, a physical weight. The other monks began to talk. They whispered among themselves, "What does this Matanga girl want with the venerable Ananda? It is improper. It is a scandal." Ananda's own mind, usually a calm lake, began to be disturbed. Ripples of annoyance and frustration spread across its surface. He was the Buddha's attendant. His life was dedicated to service and peace. This constant public adoration was a distraction. It was a stain on his reputation and, by extension, on the Sangha. He felt trapped. One morning, unable to bear it any longer, he approached her. His voice was not unkind, but it lacked the warmth she remembered from the well. It was firm, distant. "Sister," he said, avoiding her eyes, "you should not be here. This is not a place for you. Please go back to your home, to your family." Prakriti's heart shattered. To be rejected by the one person who had ever truly seen her was a pain beyond measure. Tears streamed down her face. "I have no home but where you are," she cried, her voice choked with sorrow. "I cannot live without you. Let me serve you. I will be your slave. I will wash your feet. I will do anything, but do not send me away." Her desperate plea only deepened Ananda's distress. This was attachment. This was craving, the very source of suffering that the Buddha taught to overcome. He saw not a woman in love, but a soul tangled in the thorny vines of desire. He turned and walked away, his heart heavy with a mixture of pity and frustration. Prakriti's love, rejected and misunderstood, did not turn to ashes. It turned to obsession. She could not accept his rejection. She thought, "He is a holy man. He cannot associate with a woman. If he will not have me, then no one can." Her mind, twisted by pain and longing, turned to a darker path. She remembered the old stories, the whispered tales of her own Matanga people, tales of magic and secret mantras that could bind a person's will. Her mother had been a keeper of these old ways. Desperate, Prakriti sought out her mother, a formidable woman who lived on the edge of the city. She begged her mother to use her powers to cast a spell that would force Ananda to come to her, to love her. Her mother warned her against it. To bind a holy man, a follower of the Buddha, is a dangerous thing. The power of his purity is great. Such magic can rebound and bring only destruction. But Prakriti was beyond reason. "I will die without him," she wept. "I don't care about the consequences. Just bring him to me." Seeing her daughter's all-consuming despair, the mother finally relented. That night, under a dark, moonless sky, she prepared her ritual. She drew a mystical circle on the ground, lit foul-smelling herbs, and began to chant the ancient, powerful mantras, her voice a low, hypnotic drone that seemed to pull at the very fabric of reality. The spell was a potent one, woven from the threads of primal desire and dark energy. And it began to work. Back in the monastery, Ananda was trying to meditate, but his mind would not be still. He felt a strange pull, a disorienting force that seemed to be drawing him out of the monastery. It was not a physical rope, but a psychic one, tugging at his will. An image of Prakriti's face filled with longing burned in his mind. He felt an inexplicable urge to go to her, to leave the safety of the monastery and walk to her home. The pull grew stronger, more insistent. His body felt heavy, his mind clouded. The calm clarity he had cultivated for years was being overwhelmed by a force he did not understand. He felt his own will beginning to dissolve. He was losing control. Let yourself feel that sensation of being pulled against your will. The confusion, the struggle, the feeling of an external force overwhelming your own center. In his moment of greatest distress, Ananda did the only thing he could. He turned his mind towards his teacher. He focused all his remaining energy on a single thought, a single name, Buddha. He sent out a desperate, silent plea for help. "Blessed One, save me." In his own chamber, the Buddha, whose awareness was as vast and clear as the universe itself, felt the disturbance. He felt Ananda's struggle. He felt the psychic tendrils of the mantra wrapping around his disciple. And he felt the deep, agonizing suffering of the girl Prakriti that was the source of it all. He did not get up. He did not send another monk. He simply sat in his perfect, unshakable stillness, and from the immense power of his own enlightened mind, he began to chant a counter-mantra. It was not a spell of force, but a sutra of compassion and wisdom. His words were not designed to break the spell, but to dissolve it, to untangle the knots of craving and delusion at its source. The Buddhist chant was like a stream of pure, cool water washing over the fire of the Matanga spell. The dark, coercive energy began to dissipate. The hypnotic power of the mother's words unraveled. In his room, Ananda felt the pressure lift. The fog in his mind cleared. The terrible pull on his will vanished. He fell to the floor, drenched in sweat, gasping for breath, but he was free. He was himself again. In her hut, Prakriti's mother felt the power of her spell shatter. A force of immense purity and light had overwhelmed her dark magic, and the backlash threw her to the ground, trembling and afraid. She knew then that she had challenged something far beyond her comprehension. The spell was broken. Ananda was safe. But the root of the problem, Prakriti's deep consuming attachment, remained. The Buddha knew that this was not a matter to be resolved by magic or force. It was a wound in a human heart that could only be healed with wisdom and compassion. The next morning, he sent a messenger to Prakriti. The message was simple: the Buddha wishes to see you. Prakriti received the Buddha's summons with a mixture of terror and a strange flickering hope. The man whose power had effortlessly shattered her mother's strongest magic now wanted to see her. She was afraid, for she knew she had tried to do a terrible thing, to bend the will of a holy man. But she was also drawn to him because he was Ananda's teacher, the source of the world in which Ananda lived. To be near the Buddha was, in a way, to be near him. Her love, though thwarted, was still the only compass she had. She washed her face, straightened her ragged clothes as best she could, and with a heart that beat like a frantic drum against her ribs, she walked to the Jetavana monastery. This time, the monks at the gate did not shun her. They looked at her with a new kind of awe and trepidation and parted silently to let her pass. The word had spread through the Sangha about the events of the previous night, of the dark magic and the Buddha's powerful intervention. She was no longer just an outcast girl. She was the woman who had shaken the venerable Ananda to his core and had commanded the personal attention of the Enlightened One. She was led not to a grand hall or an imposing throne room, but to a quiet spot under a large Bodhi tree where the Buddha often gave his teachings. He was sitting on a simple grass mat, his posture erect but relaxed, his presence exuding an aura of stillness so profound it seemed to quiet the very air around him. Ananda was there, seated a little behind the Buddha, his head bowed, his face pale and strained. Prakriti's eyes immediately went to him, and the familiar ache of longing clenched her heart. But her gaze was then drawn, almost against her will, to the Buddha. She had expected to see anger in his face or stern judgment. Instead, she saw the same thing she had first seen in Ananda's eyes at the well, but magnified 1,000 times. She saw a boundless, impersonal compassion, a kindness that was not directed at her, but seemed to encompass her, the trees, the sky, the entire world. It was a kindness that did not judge, that did not condemn, that simply saw. Before this immense, silent compassion, her fear began to melt away, replaced by a deep, humbling awe. She fell to her knees before him, unable to speak, her whole being laid bare before his gaze. The Buddha let the silence stretch, giving her time to settle, to feel the peace of the grove seep into her agitated soul. Then he spoke, and his voice was not like thunder, but like the gentle, persistent flow of a river. "Prakriti," he said, and the way he spoke her name gave it a dignity she had never known it possessed. "You have suffered a great deal. Tell me, what is it that you seek?" His question was so simple, so direct, it cut through all her confusion. She found her voice, and it came out as a desperate, honest plea. "Blessed One," she said, her eyes filling with tears, "I seek Ananda. I love him. I cannot live without him. I know he is a monk, and I am just a poor outcast girl, but my love is real. It is the only real thing in my life. Please, I beg you, give him to me. Let him be my husband." The monks who had gathered at a distance gasped. The audacity of her request was shocking. To ask the Buddha to give away his most beloved disciple, to break his vows, to satisfy the desires of an outcast girl, it was unthinkable. They waited for the Buddha to rebuke her, to cast her out. But the Buddha did not. He simply smiled, a gentle, understanding smile. "Your love for Ananda is very strong, Prakriti," he said. "I can see that. But Ananda is a monk. He has taken a vow of celibacy. He cannot be a husband. However," he continued, a new light in his eyes, "if you truly wish to be with him always, there is a way. You could join his world. You could take the same vows he has taken. You could become a bhikkhuni, a nun. Then you could live here, in the Sangha, and be near him for the rest of your life." A wave of shock went through the crowd of monks, even more profound than before. This was even more revolutionary. The order of nuns was still new, and it was reserved for women of high birth, of good families. The idea of an outcast, a Matanga girl, being ordained was a violation of all social and religious norms. But Prakriti heard none of this. She heard only the Buddha's promise, a way to be near him always. A wild, desperate hope surged through her. She did not fully understand what it meant to be a nun. What vows she would have to take, it did not matter. All that mattered was the goal. "Yes," she exclaimed, her voice ringing with renewed passion. "Yes, I will do it. I will do anything. I will become a nun. I will take any vow if it means I can be with Ananda." The Buddha nodded slowly. "Very well," he said. "But to become a nun, one must first gain the permission of one's parents. It is the rule. Have you asked your parents for their consent?" Prakriti's face fell. "My father is long dead, Blessed One. And my mother, she will never agree. She despises the holy path. She follows the old ways." "Then go to her," the Buddha said calmly. "Tell her of your decision. Ask for her blessing. Without it, you cannot be ordained." This seemed like an impossible obstacle, a cruel trick, but the Buddha's gaze was steady, and his voice held a quiet authority that allowed for no argument. Defeated, but not entirely without hope, Prakriti bowed and left the monastery. She went to her mother and told her of the Buddha's condition. As she had predicted, her mother flew into a rage. "What madness is this? You want to shave your head and wear a drab robe and beg for your food? For a man who does not want you? I used my strongest magic for you, and it was broken by this Buddha, and now you want to join him? Never! I forbid it." Prakriti returned to the Buddha the next day, her face a mask of despair. "It is as I said, Blessed One. My mother has forbidden it. My path is blocked. I have lost him forever." She collapsed at his feet, her body shaking with sobs, the fire in her heart finally turning to cold gray ash. The Buddha waited patiently for the storm of her grief to pass. "Let us wait with her. Let us feel the release of a great wrench in sorrow. The kind of sorrow that leaves you empty, but also, in a strange way, clean." When she was quiet again, the Buddha spoke, his voice as gentle as a hand on her shoulder. "Prakriti," he said softly, "lift your head. Look at me." She did. Her eyes were red and swollen, her face streaked with tears and dust. The Buddha continued, "You say you love Ananda. Tell me, what is it that you love? Do you love his eyes, his hands, his voice?" "I love all of him," she whispered. "If someone were to marry him, and he were to have children, he would grow old. His hair would turn gray. His back would become bent. His skin would wrinkle. His voice might grow weak. His eyes dim. Would you still love him then?" Prakriti thought for a moment. "Yes," she said, her voice a little stronger. "I would love the man he becomes. And when he dies, as all men do, and his body is placed on the funeral pyre and turns to ash and bone, what will you love then, Prakriti? Where will your Ananda be?" This question struck her with the force of a physical blow. She had never thought beyond the immediate burning need to possess him. She had never considered his impermanence, his mortality. She stared at the Buddha, her mind reeling. She had no answer. The Buddha saw her confusion, and his voice softened even more. "The love you feel, Prakriti, is like a person who is thirsty and drinks salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. You love the idea of Ananda, the feeling he gave you at the well. You saw in him a reflection of your own worth, a worth you had never been allowed to feel. You are not in love with Ananda the man. You are in love with the feeling of being seen. This is not his gift to you. This feeling of worth, this dignity, was inside you all along. He did not create it. He only showed you the door to a room that was already in your own house. He paused, letting the profound truth of his words sink in. You seek Ananda outside of yourself as something to grasp, to own. But the very thing you loved in him, his kindness, his compassion, his peace, is not his alone. It is a quality of an awakened heart. It is a potential that exists in all beings, including you. You have been chasing a reflection in a pond, trying to catch the moon. But the real moon is shining in the sky above you, available to all. He then pointed to Ananda, who had been listening to the entire exchange, his head still bowed in shame and humility. Look at him, Prakriti. He is a man. He suffers. He is imperfect. He was tormented by your devotion. He was frightened by the power of your mother's spell. He, too, is trapped in his own struggles.
The perfect, godlike being you have been worshipping exists only in your mind. For the first time, Prakriti truly looked at Ananda. She saw the strain on his face, the humility in his posture. She saw not a savior, but a fellow traveler on a difficult road. And in that moment, the fever of her obsessive love finally broke. It was like waking from a long, intense, and painful dream. The image of the perfect Ananda, the one she had constructed in her mind and worshipped for so long, dissolved. In its place was the real Ananda, a good but imperfect man. And she saw herself, not as a desperate girl defined by her love for him, but as a person who had been lost in a powerful delusion. A deep, quiet clarity began to dawn in her mind. The aching, grasping need that had consumed her for months began to recede, replaced by a feeling of spaciousness, of release. She took a deep breath, and it felt like the first true breath she had taken in a very long time. It filled her with a clean, calm energy. She looked at the Buddha, and her eyes were no longer filled with desperate longing, but with a dawning, luminous understanding. I think I understand, she whispered. The water I seek is not in Ananda's hands. The well is within me. The Buddha smiled, a radiant, beautiful smile. Yes, Prakriti, he said, and now you are ready to draw from it. He turned to the assembled monks, and his voice rang out, clear and firm. From this day forward, the rules of ordination are amended. It is not birth or caste that determines one's worthiness to walk the holy path, but only their sincerity and their readiness to seek the truth. We will welcome any who come to us with a true heart, regardless of their family or station. He then looked back at Prakriti. The obstacle of your mother's consent is removed. The door is open should you wish to enter, not to be near Ananda, but to find the Ananda, the joy, the peace within yourself. And so Prakriti, the outcast girl from the Matanga clan, was ordained. She shaved her head, donned the simple saffron robe, and became a bhikkhuni. Her journey was not easy. The habits of a lifetime of craving were strong, but she had the guidance of the Buddha and the support of the Sangha. She studied the Dharma, she practiced meditation, and slowly, day by day, she learned to untangle the remaining knots of attachment in her heart.
She learned to transform the powerful, focused energy of her obsessive love into an equally powerful, focused energy for her spiritual practice. She became known in the Sangha for her immense determination and her deep capacity for compassion, a compassion born from her own profound suffering. She did live near Ananda, but her relationship with him was transformed. She no longer saw him as an object of desire, but as a Kalyana Mitta, a noble friend and a brother on the path. Her love, once a destructive fire that sought to possess and consume, had been transmuted into a gentle, radiant light, a love that was vast, unconditional, and free. It no longer bound her to one person, but connected her to all living things. She had come to the Buddha seeking to possess one man, and in the end she had found a love that embraced the entire universe. She had found true freedom. Let the story of Prakriti dissolve, like ripples on a still pond. Let the characters fade, leaving only the essence of the teaching behind. That true peace and love are not found outside of us, but are discovered deep within. The well of tranquility is in your own heart, waiting for you. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to analyze, nothing to figure out. The work is done. All that remains is to rest. Allow your body to feel heavy and completely supported. Feel the gentle pull of gravity, a comforting, grounding presence. Let go of any remaining tension in your body, from the tips of your toes to the crown of your head. Let your mind become a wide, open, clear blue sky. If any thoughts appear, see them as small, fluffy clouds, and simply watch them drift by without judgment, without attachment. They will come and they will go. Your only task is to remain as the sky, vast and peaceful. Now bring your awareness to your breath, the gentle, automatic rhythm of life. Feel the cool air as it enters and the warm air as it leaves. Each breath is a wave, washing away any lingering stress. Each exhale is a release, carrying you deeper and deeper into a state of profound relaxation. You are safe. You are at rest. You are at peace. Allow this peace to be your companion as you drift off into a deep, restorative, and healing sleep. Rest well.